Okay, so have you ever been like scrolling through your feed, maybe looking for something new, a new outfit, and then bam, this brand new online fashion store just pops up and the site looks amazing, right? So sleek, so modern. It feels like it was made just for you. It's promising to help you, express your authentic self. Clothes for young, driven individuals.
hmm
That's what they say. I mean, that initial feeling, that excitement when a site like Lumiquea.com catches your eye, it feels like finding a hidden gem, doesn't it?
It really does, and they often frame it that way
Yeah,
too.
exactly. And they claim, according to their own description, that Lumiquea.com offers this more tailored, more personal shopping experience, better than the big impersonal giants. They say they have a wider, more unique range of styles,
Yeah.
which sounds great in theory, right? Who wouldn't want that? But
Yeah.
well, this is where my curiosity really kicked in. Is this promising new site actually legit, or are there maybe some underlying issues we should look at more closely?
Well, that's exactly what this deep dive is
Oh,
about. We're trying
that's
to look past that shiny, maybe too shiny exterior. And for this, we've looked at a few sources, but mainly a really thorough review from the YouTube channel Unscam. They're pretty good at spotting this stuff. So
Oh.
our mission here is to unpack what they found and, help you, the listener, understand the key signs of whether an online store is credible or not. Basically, how to spot potential problems before you hit buy. It's kind of amazing how quickly things can unravel when you know what clues to look for.
Okay, right. Let's unpack this then. So, when Unscam started digging into Lumiquea.com, the very first thing that jumped out, and it's a big one, was just how incredibly new the site is. Now, I get why a brand new domain might be a red flag, but, if you're just browsing, a fresh, modern site might just look like an exciting new startup. So, a domain registered July 16th, 2025, like barely a month old when they reviewed it. What does that really mean? Beyond just being new, what's the actual worry?
That's a really important point. Yeah, new can be exciting, but extreme newness, especially when it's paired with this very polished but totally anonymous front. Well, that's often a classic sign of a, let's say, less than reputable operation. Think about it, a legitimate new business, even a small startup. They usually work pretty hard to build some kind of verifiable presence online. You'd expect to find maybe some transparent info about the founders or a business registration you can actually look up, maybe even some early press or chatter in their industry. They're trying to build something lasting. But what Unscam found with Lumiquea was basically none of that. A complete lack of any real digital footprint you could verify. These types of sites often use privacy protection on their domain registration, so you can't easily find out who owns them. They might push really aggressive ads, the ones they seem to follow you everywhere online just to get quick sales, and then poof, they can vanish just as quickly. They seem built for quick disposable profit, not really for customer loyalty or building a brand over time. So that lack of any foundation, any sign they plan to stick around, that's the critical thing here. It's not just new, it's suspiciously new and kind of floating in cyberspace.
Gotcha. So it's the newness combined with the total lack of any other proof of legitimacy, like the stuff you'd normally expect from a real startup trying to earn trust. That definitely makes you wonder. Okay, so speaking of things not being quite right, Unscam's review also talked about some pretty concerning things with the product photos on Lumiquea.com. What did they find there, and why is that such a potential problem for a fashion site?
Right? This hits right at the core of consumer trust, especially with clothes. They found that a lot of the product images on Lumiquea.com, they were also found on other websites, often completely unrelated ones. Now, this points to a couple of possible issues. One, it could be drop shipping. That's where the store doesn't actually hold the stock themselves. They just pass your order to someone else, often overseas. And while drop shipping isn't automatically a scam, it definitely introduces uncertainty, like about quality control, how long shipping will really take, what happens if you need to return something. But the maybe more worrying idea, especially given the other flags, is that the pictures could just be stolen, lifted from other designers or brands. And what that means for you is that the beautiful item you see on their slick website, it might look nothing like what actually shows up at your door. Imagine ordering, say, a dress you love. The fabric looks great, the cut is unique, the color pops, and then you get something, well, totally different. Wrong texture, weird fit, dull color, because the photo wasn't even of their product. That's not just disappointing. It kind of speaks to a basic dishonesty, doesn't it? About whether the product they're showing even exists in that form. Online shopping relies so heavily on visuals. If you can't trust the pictures, the whole thing becomes really risky.
Wow, yeah, so it's not just will this fit, it's does this thing I'm looking at even exist as advertised? That's a huge gap between what you expect and what you might get. Okay, so if that wasn't enough, another big concern Unscam raised about Lumiquea was their customer support. Or maybe I should say, the lack of it. For a site that talks about tailored experiences and authentic self-expression, how did their support actually stack up?
Well, the findings here were pretty stark, actually. The only contact method listed was a single, very generic email address. No phone number, no live chat, and importantly, no real physical company address or clear About Us section you could easily find. Now, for any company, especially one claiming to be customer-focused and wanting to, empower shoppers, this lack of proper support options is deeply concerning. It's not just inconvenient. In many situations, it feels like a deliberate choice by sites that maybe don't want to be easily held accountable. I mean, think about why they might do that. Direct contact, like a phone number or live chat, that creates an immediate record. It opens them up to real-time questions and pressure to fix problems. An email address, though, that can be easily ignored. Responses can be delayed forever. Or they could just ditch the address altogether. It really signals a kind of disregard for accountability. It makes it incredibly hard for you as a customer to get quick answers before you buy or sort out problems afterwards or even figure out who you're actually dealing with. Good customer support is, fundamental for online trust.
And the weakness here says a lot about the potential headaches you could face if something goes wrong with an order. It's almost like they're trying not to be reachable.
That makes total sense. Yeah, like trying to get help from a ghost. You'd think a new fashion site wanting to make a splash would be, I don't know, bending over backward to seem legitimate and be there for customers. But instead, it's like you're just emailing into a black hole. Okay. And that brings us to the last, and maybe the most revealing red flag Unscam pointed out, the total lack of genuine customer reviews. I mean, that seems like a huge problem for any online store, right? A real death knell.
It absolutely is. And it begs the question, how can you possibly judge a store's reliability or the quality of their products or even just their basic honesty without hearing from people who've actually bought from them? A trustworthy online store, whether it's old or new, usually has some kind of customer feedback visible. Maybe on their own site, fine, but even better is feedback on independent third-party review sites, like Trustpilot, Google Reviews, that sort of thing. Lumiquea.com, according to the Unscam review, had nothing. No proof of happy customers, no testimonials that looked real, no star ratings, nothing. This is where that idea of social proof is so important. Social proof is basically seeing that other people like you have bought something and had a decent experience. It reassures you. Without any verified reviews, there's zero social proof. There's nothing to suggest your money won't just vanish or that the product will actually resemble those glossy photos. And while, yeah, some scammy sites do post fake reviews, the fact that Lumiquea apparently didn't even have those just makes it seem even more sketchy and unestablished. It's a massive hole in their credibility that's really hard to ignore.
So let's put it all together then. What we have is a brand new website, like a month old, with none of the transparency you'd expect from a real startup. It's using product photos that look like they might be stolen or drop shipped from somewhere else entirely. It offers basically non-existent customer support, just a generic email. And it has absolutely zero genuine customer reviews to back anything up.
Wow, that's quite a list of concerns, isn't it? It sounds less like a hidden gem and more like a carefully built mirage.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. When you stack all those things up, Lumiquea.com just doesn't tick the basic boxes for trust you'd expect from a reliable online store. Not yet, anyway. That polished design might look really convincing, sure, but the reality underneath, based on what Unscam found, seems full of major red flags. So until they actually fix these things, like get some real verifiable reviews, set up proper customer support, be way more transparent about who they are, where their products come from, and just generally build a legitimate online history shopping there. Based on this analysis, it feels like a pretty big gamble with your money. It seems like a site built more on looks than on actual substance or reliability.
Okay, right. So let's just recap the main issue here with Lumiquea.com. You've got this super appealing, polished website. It looks the part, totally draws you in with promises of unique fashion, expressing yourself. But then you scratch the surface even a little bit, and there's this critical lack of basic trust signals. And the combined weight of all those red flags, the site being so new and anonymous, the questionable product photos, the basically absent customer support, and no reviews at all. It just makes clicking buy feel really, really risky based on our source material. Compelling look, yeah, but seemingly zero credibility behind it.
Absolutely, and this really raises an important question for you, the listener. What does all this mean for how you shop online? It really highlights how crucial it is to look beyond just the pretty design, especially with new or unfamiliar online stores. Doubly so if they're claiming to have unique stuff that seems almost too good to be true. So, before you buy from some unknown site next time, what are the key questions you should be asking yourself? Can you find reviews anywhere else, like on independent sites, not just their own testimonials? How long has the domain actually existed? You can often check that online. Are the contact details clear? Is there more than just one generic email? Do they actually respond if you try contacting them? Maybe do a quick reverse image search on a product photo. Does it show up on AliExpress or somewhere else for way cheaper? These aren't just paranoid checks, you know? They're practical steps to protect yourself in what's becoming a more and more complex online world.
Exactly. And it leaves you wondering, doesn't it? In this age where a slick digital presentation is often everything, where someone can throw up a beautiful website really quickly, how do we actually tell the difference? How do we sort the genuine, reliable online shops from the clever illusions that might just take our money? It's about training your eye, isn't it? Looking for those little signals, and sometimes not so little ones, that build trust or maybe should make you pause. Definitely something to keep in mind next time you stumble upon that tempting new online store. What signals are you really watching for? Food for thought.